I'm going to give a short story here. There was this woman called Lisa. It's a story, a parable. And Lisa held a meeting about domestic violence. And she had a testimony of how she survived her narcissistic husband who kicked her out. And afterwards, he moved on with someone else. And people were filled with sympathy for her. They were congratulating her for being so courageous to be open about it. And everyone there began to vilify the husband. And then one of the women who attended that meeting went home. She was talking about it with her family. And one of their daughters asked, Mom, you heard about this story about this Lisa who survived domestic violence after her husband kicked her out. But did you hear the other part of the story of the husband? And the woman said, no. Then she said, Mom, there's something about the story of this woman that simply doesn't add up. But the woman was so invested in that pity party of that Lisa that she became upset with her daughter. And the husband, who was a wimp, also joined his wife into violating their daughter mentally, even though the daughter was telling the truth. Now, what actually happened? Lisa was engaged. So she wasn't even married, she was engaged with a guy. The guy went through a financial hardship because he lost his job, and soon afterwards, some relatives passed away. It was too much for him. The guy began to withdraw himself from social life, even though he did go outside and he did talk to people. He just was a bit more on his own. During this time, she began to cheat on him, and eventually she left him, and he pleaded with her to work things out. She left. She found another guy who had more money, and she totally forgot about her ex. This man, also heartbroken that his fiancée left, realized, okay, I need to change, I need to do something, and he moved on. 3 years later, he had his own business, he had a new business contract, he was now married to someone else, he had his first child was coming because his wife was pregnant, and he was a successful businessman, financially independent, well, actually financially autonomous, and he had no scars left of his former fiancée that left him. Now, Lisa, this former fiancée, now was kicked out by that boyfriend of hers, who was also addicted to cocaine, she later found out. So it was this boyfriend that was the one that smacked her around. But how did she end up with that guy that was smacking her around? Because she cheated on a good man that wanted to invest in her. So her negative intention backfired. And now the guy she left, well, she has been replaced with someone far better. He has a family now, things are going well, and he has no scars at all of what she did. So what does this make her? It makes her a narcissistic cheater that only uses others to feel relieved. And her decision caused her to be endangered. So anyone who would hear this would not be fond of her. So, to preserve her reputation, she now made up stories about how her ex-fiancé, which she didn't marry, it was just a fiancé, used to be narcissistic towards her. And by playing the victim, she now managed to get sympathy at the expense of her ex-fiancé. But everyone who listened to her stories, after they did some research on their own, they realized that everything she said was a lie. She was never married to begin with, and the guy she was murmuring about, when they Googled him or when they looked him up, he was a happy, financial autonomous businessman and father, and also an husband. So people thought, this is not possible. how can this guy be guilty of all the things she accused him of? And then they checked her story again and realized that her story had many holes in it. Now, in this case, eventually, when people looked further, they realized, okay, nothing adds up about this. Now, what am I teaching you with this parable? Human beings tend to believe the first thing they hear. That's just how human beings are, though to the fall of man. We, in general, as a species, we tend to be lazy. We don't want to research nor look into stuff. We want things to be handed to us on a silver platter. So, when we hear bad news, we tend to take heed to the bad news and to make an impression of the thing that's spoken bad about. And often people invest in their interpretation of the bad news without checking whether the bad news is true or not. And later when the truth comes out, now they want to save face. Now they don't want to admit that they were wrong and that they invested in violence against someone else. That is how worldly people are. Now, in the parable I just gave on to you, the fiance, the guy, let her go. And that was the best thing he had done. Let me give you another version of the story. Let's say now that the two got married and that he found out that she was cheating and that he kicked her out, put her on the street. Now, even though she's wrong, because she's a woman, she can claim, well, she didn't receive enough attention, she would come with any type of excuse why she cheated, and people will still look at him as the bad guy. So let's say he kicks her out, and people are upset with him because of it, and later they figure out the truth. They have still invested in him being the bad guy, and people will not be likely to let it go. And now that she was the one that left, and she was the one that ended up in a bad situation, not because of him, now when people want to hold on to their image of him as the bad guy, they'll be embarrassing themselves and make themselves look bad. And people, when this happens, they will quit. They'll think, you know what? You always thought this Johnny was a bad guy. You think he's something, you know what? Let's just forget about him. Because if we keep on being upset with him or hating him, it will cost us. It will cost us reputation with our children. It will cost us our mental sanity. So they'll realize, okay, we need to stop. So what is this about? The perception people have of you matters. Now, you cannot make people think good about you. That's not possible. So I'm not telling you to do that because you can't. What you should do is, as far as it depends on you, manage how they will perceive you. And you should do that by considering the bigger picture. That's why Christ said to turn the other cheek. Turning the other cheek does not mean that you allow yourself to be victimized and killed. Turning the other cheek does not mean that if someone raped one of your daughters, you offer your other daughter as an extra. No. Turning the other cheek implies that you don't fight, because fighting would make you look guilty. You don't flee, because that will make you look both guilty, as well as it will give an impression of you're a coward also. So what do? You deal with the situation in such a way that the perpetrators will embarrass themselves when they continue. Because perpetrators will embarrass themselves when you endure. For example, Christ said about turning the other cheek. Why? Because in the ancient times, the left hand was used to wipe your arse after you went to the toilet. So that hand was seen as unclean, also by pagans. The right hand was seen as the hand that you use for writing and the hand that you use to manage things. So if someone hit you on the cheek, it was likely with the left hand to show you that they looked down on you. If you turn the other cheek, then they need to slap you with the back of their hand, which means that they are inferior. And nobody wants that. The other option is to smack you with the right hand, but then that means they would treat you as an equal. They don't want to treat you as an equal, because if they treat you as an equal, they need to justify themselves, and they can't. If they want to smack you with the back of the left hand, that would mean that they'll be debasing themselves. So, what do? What do? They have to escape the situation as soon as possible. That's a symbol of turning the other cheek. For example, if people get accused of this and that, just remain calm. Don't defend yourself. Don't flee. Unless they pick up physical weapons, then you flee, of course. But if they accuse you of something, and they keep murmuring and complaining, then you can ask them, then why are you still here? If you claim that I'm just wasting your time and all of that, why are you here arguing? And when you ask that, they need to answer it. And then everyone else is going to think, indeed, if you claim this guy is a waste of time, this guy is annoying you, all of that, why are you here entertaining something that's wasting your time? Ooh, this is something they can't get out of. So, they will likely continue to rage and they'll leave. Because to continue to fight you would prove that they are predators, that they are psychic addicts that just want relief at someone else's expense. And for them to expose themselves means that they would ruin their reputation, and if their reputation is ruined, they'll lose all their social relationships and their financial security, so they won't go there. Violent people just want to dump their frustrations with the least consequences haunting them. So when their fighting implies that consequences will haunt them for the rest of their lives, they will move away. They will quit. Sometimes, and you need to examine the situation carefully, just walk away. Just look at someone and just walk away. If they come after you, they're the ones looking for trouble. For example, if someone is accusing you of disrespecting their mother or father, whatever, and you just walk away, if they come after you, everyone would say you went after him. He left. He did not attack you. And even if he insulted one of your parents, that is no reason to cause an escalation in the community. So before any court of law, they will be found guilty. And psychologically, it works like this. Violent people just want an excuse to attack you. And when you walk away, there's nothing for them to fight anymore. So if they come after you, they'll be making themselves look bad. And this is something they want to avoid because they just want mental relief by focusing their anger on you. So turn the other cheek implies that you corner perpetrators in such a way that either they comply with justice, or by doing that, they will have to expose themselves for what they are. Predators, perpetrators, untrustworthy human beings that cause trouble just to be relieved. They don't want this, so complying with justice is not an option. But to continue to fight would exhaust them. Because remember, they're not gods. They are fragile creatures. So eventually, they'll mentally get exhausted by fighting you. It is emotionally draining, and it will financially cost you. Also, the community around that experience the violence against you will get tired of it. So, to continue to fight you would be suicide, so what's left for them? They have to flee. And once they flee, once they capitulate, it's over. Next time they see you, they won't even dare, because psychologically, they feel defeated. So they won't do that. So, turn the other cheek. Sometimes when people do stupid, tolerate them doing stupid, because the more stupid they do, the more negativity they're investing in, and the more it will backfire. Am I saying that if someone is victimizing you, you just have to relax and allow them to have their way with you? No. You're not the Most High. Christ can do that because he's God anyway. You're not. What I'm saying is, if you can just walk away, just like that, you walk away. Or if they persist, ask them a constructive question that you know that they can't answer without getting themselves in trouble. And once you've cornered them, it's over. Violent people are addicts that want relief. They don't want more consequences on them. They want the consequence on you so they can escape. And the moment fighting you will cost them too much, they'll stop. This is the psychology of dealing with violent people and with reprobates. If the costs are way too high, or if the costs will haunt them for way too long, and they see this coming, they will stop. Violent people and reprobates will only trouble those that are weaker than them or those where they have an advantage over. They will not, under any circumstance, persist in haunting someone that's more powerful than them or that's a leverage over them. They won't do that. So, what do you do when reprobates and violent people make you a target? Understand they're making you a target because you didn't give in to one of their expectations. And because they're too cowards, because they're such cowards that they don't want to face themselves, they have to be angry with you and take out their frustration on you, because that's far better and cheaper for them than facing themselves. But the moment they invest in fighting against you, and they realize eventually that the fighting is harming them more than it harms you, either they go for full self-destruction and interact others with them, but at the time they're doing this, the community of enablers, if the enablers will turn on them at this point, or they just flee. Because complying with justice is something they won't do. During this lifetime, we will face tribulation and affliction. But we should be of good cheer. Christ has overcome the world, and Christ told us to be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. So, turn the other cheek and overcome all violence against you. Be at peace.